Hi, good evening, parents. Welcome to the Empowering Edufront Parents Workshop. My name is Ms. Radha, and I'm the Academic Manager at Edufront. Today, I'll be sharing about model drawing for lower primary math. Okay, so let's start. Now, one of the basic heuristic skills that the students will need to know is actually model drawing. So, what are the benefits of model drawing? So, benefits of model drawing is first and foremost is to have a visual and strategic approach that helps children to understand complex mathematical problems. It also promotes critical thinking and problem-solving skills. So before we touch on the different types of models, let's briefly go through the steps that your child should take when tackling word problems. So the first step is to read the word problem carefully. So we can start by reading the problem carefully and identifying the important information. You will need to understand what the problem is asking and what information you have to work with. So of course, first and foremost is to be able to understand what the question is all about. Okay, so next. So step 2 is to identify the question that needs to be answered. This will help your child to focus on what they actually need to solve. So like for example, when you see a word problem, it's very important for them to be able to understand what the question is asking from them. So in this case, to identify the question that needs to be answered. Now, next is to identify the units. So identifying the units of measurement for the problem. This is important as it will help the child understand how the quantities are related to each other. So like when questions involving fractions or units like kilograms, grams, meters, kilometers, so it's very important for them to identify all these different units of measurement so that it can help them to answer the questions better. All right, and then step 4, which is what we're going through today, is drawing the model. So after the child is able to understand the question, able to identify what is needed from them, and also the units involved, they can then proceed to draw the model. So drawing the model is basically just drawing the visual representation of the problem using blocks. All right, and then the model should accurately reflect the information given in the problem. So first step is of course to understand the question. That's only after the child understands fully what the question is asking for, then they can translate it into the model. So sometimes we keep asking or we encourage students to draw a model, but if the model is not accurate, then the answer they get is also not accurate. So that's why first and foremost, before we even start to draw the model, we will teach them how to identify the question and also to read the problem carefully. So when they read the problem carefully, they are usually strongly encouraged to highlight important key points, to underline keywords, underline the questions, etc. Yeah. Okay, so once after we draw the model, after we draw the visual representation of the problem, we will then proceed to label. I know kids or students nowadays, they like to take shortcuts. So after they draw the model, and that's it. They just draw like two rectangles, and then that's it. Okay, but drawing those rectangles is not enough. So they will need to be able to label the different parts of the model with the corresponding quantities and units. And then this will actually help to keep track of the different values and the relationships. So what I mean by this is that when you label the model properly, then this would actually prevent careless mistake. Okay, because like for example, the keyword like more than, less than, when it appears in the question, and if they are able to translate it and label the model correctly, they'll probably get it correct. But sometimes what happens is that, you know, when they don't label properly, and then more than, they are supposed to add, and then they will end up subtracting, something like that. Now next, we move on to solving the problem. Of course, once you've drawn your model, that's when you will solve the problem, and then you will combine all the different information using the mathematical operations. And last but not least, of course, is to check the answers. So once you've already solved the problem, you must go back and check the answers, make sure it makes sense. Okay, I understand that some children, they do not have time after the exams to do so. So what they can do is immediately after they solve the question, they can double check do the quick working to see if the answers are correct. Now, so moving on to the types of models, today I'll be going through 3 different types of model drawings that are commonly used in lower primary mathematics. So the 3 types of model are, first and foremost, part-whole model, second is a comparison model, and third is the unitary model. So I'll be going through the questions and then how you draw the models, the important where the labels should go, and of course solving the question. Okay, so for part-whole model, when you see part-whole model, simply put, is you have a whole rectangle. In this case, you can see the whole entire rectangle. Okay, and then after that, you divide it into parts. And then that's how you solve the question. Now, part-whole models also comes in many forms. So one form is, for example, in this question, there are 26 candles in a box. So 8 of them are red and the rest are purple. So how many purple candles are there in the box? So what you can do is they will give you the overall number, which is 26, and then 8 is red and the rest are purple. So the question here is asking you for the number of purple candles. So the question mark should be where the purple candles are. And then that's how you realize that, oh, okay, in order for you to find a part of this, you just need to subtract. So hence, that's how you get the answer. Now, on the other hand, another sample of part-whole model is where they give you the parts, and what you need to do is to find the total amount. So for example, after selling 130 apples, a shopkeeper had 145 apples left. So how many apples did he have at first? So one part is labeled as sold, 130, and then the other part is labeled as left, 145. So the question is at first, therefore it has to be the entire model. So the question mark will be here. So once the kids are able to draw these, and then they are able to visualize that, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. So in order for me to find the entire thing, I will have to add. Therefore, they will be able to come to the conclusion that for this question is 130 plus 145. Okay, so for the earlier 2 questions, if you notice, they are all talking about candles, one object, and then here they are all talking about apples, right? But sometimes for part-whole model, they can actually talk about 2 different items. Okay, so for example, in this question, a pencil costs $5, a book costs $4 more than the pencil. So how much does the book cost? So we have a pencil as one part, and then more for the other part. So the question is asking you for the price of the book. So the whole entire model is what the book is all about. So instead of total, like earlier is sold and left, or the earlier one is one whole box filled with candles. This one, they're talking about 2 different objects, but you're also able to use part-whole model. For the other example of part-whole model is when you compare 3 quantities. Earlier, again, we talked about 2 different quantities, which is pencil and book. So for this, we're talking about 3 different quantities. So we're talking about 3 different people or 3 different objects. In this case, we're talking about Amy, Belle, and Kim. All right. Likewise, okay, so you are able to write down how much Amy has and then how much Belle have, and Kim, since Kim is the question, so the question mark would be here. And then since all of them had 97 seashells in total, so 97 will be here. So based on this diagram, the children would be able to tell that in order to find Kim, I can take the total and subtract Amy as well as Belle. So I can do that, or I can add Amy and Belle together, and then I'll take the total amount and subtract whatever that Amy and Belle has. Okay, next, we're moving on to comparison model. So comparison model is where you have 2 different quantities and you put it in 2 different blocks. So for example, there are 40 boys in the school hall. There are 32 more girls than boys in the school hall. So how many girls are there in the school hall? So we have 2 different quantities, one being the boys, which is 40. And then the question also says that there are 32 more girls than boys. So girls, the model would be slightly bigger. And because it's more than, so you will need to identify the more part. Okay, so the kids will need to mark off this area and write down more. Okay, so since there's 32 more girls, so how to find the girls, you just need to add 40 plus 32. Right, so same thing here also, it also works not just for more, it also works for less. Okay, so Uncle Lee collected 316 coconuts on Saturday, he collected 53 fewer. All right, so fewer means it's lesser coconuts on Sunday than on Saturday. So how many coconuts did he collect on Sunday? So same thing as the earlier question. So Saturday there's 316. Okay, and Sunday there's lesser coconuts. So the model has to be smaller. And since this is what we are looking for, the question mark should be here, right? Another comparison model will be Mary had 24 cakes and 12 buns. So the two quantities are cakes and buns. So how many more cakes than buns did she make? So sometimes when it comes to comparison model, it comes in parts. Okay, so in this case, the question, they have part A and part B. But the children can also use the same model. So, for example, in this case, part A asks how many more cakes than buns did she make? So she has cakes that is 24, buns that's 12. So she will have to find the more part. So this is the question mark. All right, so in order to find this question mark, it will be 24 minus 12, which is equals to 12. So after the kids find out this portion, all right, then they can continue with part B. Okay, so if they were to draw the model, what they can do is label here A, which is like earlier. Okay, so question mark and then the A after that. And then after that, for part B, they just need to add on this arrow and indicate here B. Okay, so how many bakes did she make in total? Since the arrow is here, means that they are talking about both cakes and buns. Therefore, it will be 24 plus 12 equals to 36. So same model, all right, all they need to do is just to add on the arrows. So this is why earlier I was telling you that it's very important for the children to be able to identify what the question is asking for. So if the children is able to identify that, okay, these are the two things that I need to find out, so they can immediately write on the model that, okay, so this is my first question mark, and then my second question mark will be here. All right, so common questions that we will sometimes receive is whether there's just one way to solve a problem, a word problem, or in this case, is there just one way to draw the model for a question? Okay, the answer is no. All right, depending on the question, there are actually more than one ways how you can actually draw your model. Okay, so for example, in this question, Asphalt is 143 cm tall, his brother is 150 centimeters tall, and his father is 180 cm tall. So what is their total height? So if you were to solve this using a part whole model, okay, the kid can draw one whole big rectangle, okay, and then divide it into three parts. So the first one being Asphalt, brother, and father. So the student should be able to label them accordingly, 143, 158, and 180. So since the question is asking for total, the question mark should be labeled from Asphalt all the way to the father. So from there, the kid will be able to tell that in order to find their total height, I will have to add all of them up. So I will have to add 143 plus 158 and 180. Okay, now another way to solve this problem is to apply the comparison model. So remember, comparison will mean that there will be three parts. So we have father, brother, and Asphalt. So based on this question, the child will be able to tell that father has to be the biggest part because he's 180 cm. Then the brother is 158, and Asphalt himself is 143. So how to find the total height? It has to be from the top to the bottom. Okay, the method remains the same. So regardless if the child is more comfortable in doing part whole model as compared to comparison model, then both works. Right, now the final type of model that we're going through today will be the unitary model. This is the most commonly used. Okay, so unitary method. So all you need to do is draw one whole entire rectangle and then divide it into equal parts. Okay, so for example, there are 3 birds on each tree. How many birds are there on 6 trees? Okay, so you will have to draw 6 equal parts, and then in each part, you have to label them 3. Okay, so since they're asking for how many birds are there all together, so the question mark will be from one end to the other end. So the kids should be able to apply 3 times 6 equals to 18, or 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3, 6 times. Okay, so either way, the answer will be correct. Okay, likewise, for this type of model, this involves quantity. Okay, 2 different quantities. So in this case, mother paid $28 for 4 kilograms of grapes. So what was the cost of 1 kilogram of grapes? So the child should be able to identify that 4 kilograms of grapes can be represented by 4 small boxes. So 4 equal parts. Each part is represented by 1 kilogram. So 1 kg, 2 kg, 3 kg, 4 kg. Okay, so altogether for 4 kilograms is $28. So cost of 1 kilogram, so you need to find the question mark, which is here. Okay, so if you were to solve it using unitary method, it'll be 4 kilograms is $28, then 1 kilogram will be 28 divided by 4, which is equals to 7. So that's the answer, right? Now, sometimes unitary method also involve, earlier this is quite straightforward, 1 unit or 1 square represents 1 kilogram. Okay, but sometimes the question is as such. So Sylvia bought 3 boxes of cakes. There were 2 chocolate cakes and 3 cheesecakes in a box. All right, so how many cakes were there in each box? So in this case, 1 unit, or rather 1 small rectangle or 1 small part, is represented by 1 box. But in each box, there's 2 chocolate and 3 cheesecakes. Okay, so if there's no time, then the child will not, they don't have to spell it out. They don't have to like spell out 2 chocolate. So what I can do is 2 choc, 2 CHOC, something like that, or 3 cheese. So in one box, the child should be able to tell that there's 2 chocolate and 3 cheese. Okay, likewise, this is a part question. So for the first part, how many cakes were there in each box? So after writing this down, then the child would know that, oh, look, in one box, there's actually 2 chocolate and 3 cheese. So how to solve this question? You just need to add 2 plus 3, which is equals to 5. Okay, and then for part B, using the same model, all right, the child should be able to identify which is the second question. So earlier for part A, we've already identified that each box has 5. Okay, so how many cakes did she buy altogether? So 5 times 3, because there's 3 boxes. So that's why you're able to find 1 box, 2 box, 3 box. Okay, so it's 5 times 3, or 5 plus 5 plus 5, which will also come to the same answer. All right. Okay, so that's all the time we have for now. So I'll be ending the video here. I hope whatever questions I've gone through will help you to help your child solving word problems using models. All right, with that, thank you very much for your time. Hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.